On today's episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast, Justin and I are going to talk about the draft because it's coming up in just a couple of days. Stick around, we're going to talk about it here.
You're now listening to the Wandering Buffalo podcast with your hosts, Andrew Chang and Justin Goddard.
Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast, a show here on the Buffalo Fan Base Network. He's Justin Goddard. I'm Andrew Chang, and this is the Wandering Buffalo podcast. You can find us on most social media and podcasting platforms, and of course on YouTube by searching up the Wandering Buffalo podcast. Justin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Little bit of cold here, so bear with me. This 80 degrees back to 40 degrees back and forth. It's messing with me, but
Ping-ponging.
yeah, we're hanging in there. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. And you're the weather is ping-ponging, kind of like how us Bills fans are trying to figure out what the Bills should do with their first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Well, we don't have all those picks, but you know what I'm saying. They're like, just what should we do? Should we go defense? Should we go offense? Should we go linebacker? Should we go wide receiver? Should we just pick an offensive tackle? Hell, fuck it. Let's just get a kicker in the first round. It's just a lot of craziness that's going on right now. And this is how I get every single time right before the NFL draft. And this is weird because this year I haven't really been focusing, and I got to be honest with myself. So I'll be honest with you, the listener, and of course you, Justin. I haven't done a whole lot of homework on this year's class. I don't know why, but it just feels like I generally don't know what the Bills are going to do. I know where the biggest holes are, but I just don't know if they're actually going to address those holes by reaching on a player and whatnot. So what Justin and I are going to do is we're going to do a little mock draft for you. I'm sure you know what that is. If you're listening to this episode right now, you've probably done one yourself. Justin, we are going to do a mock draft through PFF. We're going to do 1, 2, and 3. 3-round mock drafts. We're going to do a couple of those. Those are the free ones. No offense to the listeners here, but I'm not going to subscribe to unlock 4, 5, and 6 and 7 rounds. I'm good on that. So without further ado, here we go. Justin, I am going to share my screen here, and you should be seeing it. And if you're watching on YouTube, you should be seeing it as well. So let's enter the draft with the 27th pick, and we are going to start right now. No trades. Nothing like that.
This is going to be a little bit of a fun exercise for me because I have done a ton of mock drafts.
Yeah.
But I usually don't do a ton through PFF. I've been using PFN, so
they do kind of some weird, like, I feel like their rankings are kind of strange, and sometimes they make sense, sometimes they don't. But some notable players already off the board: Bryce Young, number 1, CJ Stroud, number 2, Jalen Carter, number 3, and then Jackson Smith and Jigba at number 6. Lions traded all the way up to get him. Quentin Johnston, number 8. Let's see here. You see any potential Bills players? Paris Johnson, 17. Nolan Smith, the edge, also picked by the Lions at number 18. Dolphins picked no one because they suck.
I know Darnell Wright is a name that comes up a lot in mock drafts, and he goes there at 20 to Seattle.
Yeah, and Zay Flowers, the speedy guy who wants to work out with Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, goes at number 23 here. And mind you that other teams can make trades. We just aren't. So the Bengals are behind us, and we're on the clock. And the top, we got some trade offers here, I guess.
You said no trades.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. I'm not going to do that. But we got Myles Murphy, and these are just some top players. Myles Murphy, Broderick Jones, Bijan Robinson, Michael Mayer. Let's see. Cam Smith, Josh Downs, Jack Campbell. Of course, he's going to be there, right? What I guess in this position, I'm not really sure if I'm the Bills GM, what I would do, but I'm going to tell you how I feel, and I'm going to pick, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to pick. And then how about we do the next draft what you would pick, and then you
Uh,
can kind of analyze what I do.
I was
How you
gonna
like
say
that?
we can do like I'm your assistant GM here. You get the final say on picks, and
Okay.
I'll try to sway you on some things.
All right, let's hear it. What should I do?
So personal, if we're doing our personal board, I really wouldn't be surprised if Miles Murphy is the pick here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
just going with the BPA approach, and I think regardless of how much we've invested into the defensive end position, the defensive line position as a whole, we haven't quite gotten it right as a team. So I
Yeah,
wouldn't be
what's up with
surprised if
that?
that's the pick.
Why? I'm sorry to interrupt you. That is the one thing I will say. The Bills, and when it comes to drafting, especially like the defensive line, just so far not great
Well,
under
so
Brandon Beane.
so I feel like that's partially because we've been a more successful team, like finding these absolute like stud defensive ends, like those the Von Millers, the Khalil Macks, the Joey Bosa's, Nick Bosa's, those players go in like the top 10, right? So when you're
Absolutely.
getting at the tail end of the draft, I think even a guy like Greg Rousseau, we were fortunate to draft because of the weird COVID season and all that happening
Yeah.
beforehand. Um, so so if I'm looking kind of predictively at what the Bills would do, Miles Murphy wouldn't surprise me here. As I was talking about on last week's episode, as I was kind of working through the idea of like Jack Campbell in the first round,
But you're my
uh,
assistant GM.
yeah,
You're trying to help me. Forget about the Bills.
yeah.
What you're trying to help me out? What
So
do you think I'm gonna do?
so I've had a paradigm shift here, and you have Josh Allen as your quarterback. Um, I think with the defensive coach that we have in place, it's time to let him take the reins on defense, and we're loading up on offense. So that to me is a matter of what you prioritize more. Is it getting Josh Allen a weapon, or is it protecting him? If we're protecting him, I love Broderick Jones in this spot. And honestly, the further I go into this, I have a hard time justifying leaving Bijan on the board at 27. Uh, yeah, you might not get him to a second contract, but a generational player that you get for 4 or 5 years, hard for me to pass up on.
Yeah, so if I'm being honest, I'm kind of stuck between Bijan Robinson and Michael Mayer. And I hear what you're saying about Michael, or I'm sorry, Broderick Jones. It's just Brandon Beane has been so adamant about Spencer Brown. So I just don't think that they're going to do it. Maybe later, but at this moment, I just think that you can't leave a generational talent like Bijan Robinson on the board this late. He's just he's just that good, apparently. And he's got to be the pick for me.
Get him
So
Twitter.
yeah, we're going for it.
Yeah, the
Let's
thing
see.
the thing that I also struggle with in mock drafts is Bijan even being there at 27.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
not gonna be there. He's
but
not gonna be
like but like for the sake of doing a mock draft, like he's there. So what do you want me to do? you know?
right. Okay, well, now we're in the second pick or second round pick, and let's see what happened here. Drew Sanders went at 49. Jack Campbell went at 42. Apparently, the Jets traded up to get him. Uh, okay, so the dream of Jack Campbell being in the second round for us or Drew Sanders is did not come into fruition, at least in this predictive exercise. Justin, who do you see on this board? What should I do? Because I'm Brandon Beane, and I'm kind of freaking out. What should I do? Talk to me.
I mean, so
Do we
you're
take another running back?
yeah, probably.
Double down.
Uh um this is also the range where we get into some names that become a little bit more difficult for me. First couple names that pop off for me here is tackle Matthew Bergeron. Obviously right at the
Hmm.
top. You said, you're pretty sold on working with Spencer Brown next year, so that's probably not somewhere where we're looking yet. Um,
Hmm.
Isaiah Foskey, Siaka Ika. I think defensive tackle is a huge need on this team. Um,
No one, I believe,
no one under
on
contract, yeah,
contract
next
next year.
season.
That's
But if you
wild.
go down just a touch further there, you were waffling about a tight end in the first round with Michael Mayer there. You got Darnell Washington sitting there at 59 right now.
Hmm.
Just an absolute unit of a human. Uh,
Unit.
Basically, playing a jumbo tight end whenever he's in the game, but also has um, some athleticism to him that he can get involved in the passing game too. Where are you looking? Are you looking offense, defense? Where are we going with this one?
I'm looking BPA and what makes sense. I'm like I said, I'm a big, where need and value comes together. So I think the biggest need, at least when I'm looking at this, is defensive line. I and I like the idea of John Michael Schmitz right there, but I feel like that's a kind of a reach. But he could be a solid backup because Mitch Morse, like, he gets concussions a lot, and he could be like one concussion away from hanging them up. And what I hate is that when Mitch Morse does get a concussion or someone gets injured, there's like you just can't plug and play someone. They shuffle the entire line. And it's just like, whoa, one guy went down. Why, like, you
We
know?
have we have positional versatility.
Yeah, yeah, I know, but I'm just like, damn.
Use
So
it.
I I guess I'm kind of torn between like that. I don't know, man. But then there's Matthew Bergeron. He's pretty good, man. I am sold that Brandon Beane doesn't that has faith in Spencer Brown, but at what point do you see someone this high up go like, What do
I've
you
made
think?
I've made my case. You're the GM here.
I'm stuck between here, and here. What should I
I
do?
me personally, I love the idea of bringing in competition for Spencer Brown.
Mm-hmm.
The position that we have ourselves in at the defensive tackle position. Um, I know there's a decent amount of depth in this draft, but you're also kind of looking at needing an impact player going forward.
Yeah,
Um,
we need players.
I'm kind of predicting that post draft, they offer an extension to Daquan Jones, um, to kind of free up a little cap space there, have a little more money to play with, and also have a solution there for a few years. But as it stands right now, it's just not a position I want to ignore for too long. And I think
Yeah,
that having some big boys up front kind of mitigates the potential disaster that we have going on at middle linebacker.
right. No, I don't want to butcher this name. Can you say it one more time for me?
Yeah, I'll be the one that butchers it. Siaka Ika.
Sayaki Ika, number 2. We're going. Oh, looks like we only did 2 rounds. My
Hey,
apologies. All right, that works out. We are getting a grade here, but it's all subjective. And well, first off, how do you feel like we did with just this 2 round mock draft?
so I like those two picks. Like I said in the first round, I have a very hard time believing that Bijan would make it to 27. And I know there's so much talk about running back in the first round. Um, I've kind of moved off of hating that, just simply because that At the top of the first round, yes, with the pay scale,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of brings a running back in being like the eighth highest paid running back in the league, whatever. As you get towards the end of the draft or the end of the rounds, it doesn't matter nearly as much to me.
Right.
If he's sitting there, it's hard to say no.
Yeah. All right. So let's start this up again. And we are on the board. We are on the clock. This time it is you who is going to be the GM of the Buffalo Bills, and I am your assistant GM here. We got Broderick Jones, Bijan Robinson once again, Michael Mayer, Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison, Felix. I'm not gonna try to even pronounce that. I'm
Uzoma.
sorry, dude. Yeah, Uzoma. We'll just say that. Let's see who else here. Okay, we'll scroll back up.
So honestly, if I'm sitting here as the GM in
Well,
this,
whoa. I gotta gas you up first. Hold on, hold
oh,
on.
okay,
All
okay.
right. I think based off this list, I would go wide receiver. And Jordan Addison or Zay Flowers, right? And and these guys are, to my understanding, they're both kind of smaller dudes, but Zay Flowers is much faster, or he's got the reputation to be the burner. I like Bijan Robinson, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't be the pick here because I picked him, obviously, but I think this team needs another pass catcher. And unlike my draft that I did, I had no wide receiver options. But now that it's on the board, eh, could be something you should consider. If I were you, I'm looking towards a wide receiver for sure. But just to recap before I cut you loose here, let's look at some moves that happened. Let's see what happened. Jackson Smith and Jigba 15 to the Packers. Miles Murphy to the Lions at 18. Again, Dolphins no pick because they suck. Nolan Smith at 22. That would have been nice. And yeah, that's really all you need to know.
Yeah, so if it was me sitting in this position and for starters, I'm not going to take Bijan Robinson. I think mock drafts are not really meant to be predictive, but kind of thought exercises to see how different options play out. So I don't want to kind of repeat the same situation of what we just did. Um, if I was sitting
Hey
here
man, it's your draft, not me.
if I was sitting here as Brandon Beane, I know we're not doing trades. This is a situation where I would be super comfortable trading down. Um,
Mm-hmm.
there's a ton of players, and depending on how far back you'd go here, there's a ton of players right now that I'd be comfortable taking end of first round, early second. Mozzie Smith is popping out there to me
Yeah.
at defensive tackle. But this is also a draft that's pretty deep in defensive tackles as I just kind of talked about. Um, for me, this didn't take much selling. My pick here is Zay Flowers. I think he's just a super crisp route runner, and Gabe Davis's future is kind of up in the air. I think the
Mm-hmm.
Bills like him more than we know, but if you have a 1, 2, 3, you're not even including the guys we added in the
Oof.
offseason, there he is.
I know. I know. Look who just got taken right before us.
That's all right. I
Drew
had my
Sanders.
I I have a different philosophy going here anyways, so um
Okay. I have a feeling I know what you're gonna do, but let's just recap real quick of some big names I got taken. Broderick Jones, first pick of the second round. Let's see here. Where Jack Campbell 46 to the Patriots.
hate to see it.
Yeah, let's see here.
Little mini run on tight ends there too.
Yeah, yeah.
Musgrave, Laporta.
Drew Sanders at 58 right before us. What are you doing? We got Keanu Benton. Let's see here. Isaiah Forsky, Siaki Ika.
Nailed it.
Tried my best. I apologize if I did that wrong. John Michael Schmitz is still there. DJ Turner, Darnell Washington, Chandler Zavala. Sorry, man. My bad. Jordan Battle. What are you doing? I'll tell you what. Not to recycle what I did, but defensive line is something that's really sticking out to me because of the fact that we don't have anyone under contract after next year.
Yeah, so I had my pick completely locked into my head as soon as this page came up. Not
Mm-hmm.
hard to do because he's right at the top, but as you scroll down there a little bit and I see Darnell Washington still sitting there, he's somebody that
You
I
love
I
him.
I struggle with this because I love the player and I love what I think he could bring to this offense. My
I just
problem
don't think that
comes
the Bills use tight ends like that much, you
right,
know?
but when we look at what they've done the past few years, they brought in Jacob Hollister, they brought in OJ Howard. It seems like they were trying to get this two tight end thing going, and it just didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and for me, it's kind of that commitment to the offense as I was talking about. But there's some other tight ends in this draft, and so
Loaded.
my uh my strategy on defense this year is kind of um let's bolster up the trenches, our secondary with all the players returning, all the talent on the back end. Um, it's kind of going to be let's use the players around the linebacker position
Mm-hmm.
for kind of a get by. So sign me up for Keanu Benton,
All right.
my second favorite D tackle behind Mozzie Smith.
Okay. Easy enough. So, Justin, how do you personally feel like you did in this draft? Do you like my draft better or do you like your draft better? And do you think your situation was easier to deal with than mine, or, you know, was it easier?
I like mine better, obviously.
I like yours better too, but
I
I felt
like
like my situation was slightly harder.
Yeah, I think I got handed a better set of cards here. Just in that I do I don't have problems with the Bijan Robinson pick at all. But I think this is a pass first team.
Mhm.
As you were saying with the tight ends, it's an offense that runs through the wide receivers. So I think Zay Flowers being there, there's a lot of teams that have him as the number one receiver ahead of JSN. So for him to fall into our laps at 27, I think is kind of a dream come true scenario.
Okay. So we're about to go into another mock draft, but let's use a different mock draft machine. Let's try Pro Football Network just to get some variance out there. And this time we're gonna try to be Brandon Beane. But before we get to that, we're gonna take a quick break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Brother Bill. Now back to the show.
Welcome back, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast, a show here on the Buffalo Fan Base Network. He's Jay Gods, 22, and I'm Two Changs, and this is the Wandering Buffalo podcast. We're going to wrap up this episode by doing a final mock draft, but this time we're trying to be Brandon Beane. In the first half of this segment, we did what I would do, then we did what Justin would do, but now we're going to put our heads together, our average heads together, and try to think about what Brandon B would do. And now we're on Pro Football Network. We got the screen up. Let's draft 2 rounds. Let's go. Okay. And we are off.
I've done so
And
many of these on my phone, like the layout on the computer. It's just like blowing my mind right now.
yeah, I was about to say, I was like, oh, is this fast? Jackson Smith and Jigba, number 12 there. Oh man, to the Patriots? That would kind of suck. Bijan Robinson to
Listen,
the Giants?
I'm not worried about it if he goes to the Patriots because that just means that everybody was wrong and he's bad because the Patriots can't draft a receiver.
Yeah, right. That's fair. That's fair. We got 3 offers, but are we doing drafts or no? Or trades?
We can look at them. I can tell you right off the bat here, I wouldn't be dropping down to 74.
Yeah, so I'm gonna hit reject. Ooh.
29 to pick up. Well, for the sake of what we're doing here, we only have 2 rounds on. So picking up that pick 71 isn't really going to help us as much as that would be enticing.
Yeah, so I'm gonna hit reject.
And that doesn't help us because that's next year.
Yes. We're just gonna reject everything. Okay. So we got some players on here. Anyone sticking out to you, Justin?
Zay Flowers is there again.
Of course.
Obviously I took him in my last one.
Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, we're not.
Yeah.
There's only one running back I want in the first round. There's a lot of tackles standing out to me.
Yeah.
If we're being Brandon Beane here, I don't think it's the spot for that.
Michael Mayer. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tight ends, right? And this kind of reminds me of like when Dawson Knox got drafted. It was just like, all right, the last of the good ones are starting to run, and then he like traded up. He was like, all right, I'm gonna get the last one real quick.
Yeah, I think especially for this team, and tight ends usually taking a couple of years to develop.
Whoa. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We got breaking news as of right now. Our executive producer tells me that the Bills are extending Tyler Bass, which is pretty sweet. He's got a 4-year extension worth up to $21 million, 12.3 guaranteed. So that, if I'm not mistaken, that's actually going to clear up some cap space for this season. Am I wrong to say that?
I'd have to see how the breakdown all hits.
I think that's accurate.
I think it would be if he got extended.
Interesting.
$5 million. How do you feel about $5 million a year for a kicker?
Hey,
Tyler Bass, whatever. I love it.
I love it. Ty dollar sign.
Draft, develop, resign the Brandon Beane way.
Of course, we should know. Okay, what are we doing here? Get back to it.
So, going with what my mindset was in the last draft, it's Zay Flowers for me here. If we're trying to be
Brandon Beane, which we are,
and I think he's done a ton to try to shore up the defensive line and the offensive line for that matter. But the offensive line, he hasn't really invested draft capital in, right? Defensive line, he hasn't been shy to throw resources at. So the name popping out to me right now is Brian Bresee. Lucas Van Ness at the top at edge. I'm not too keen on him.
Yeah, the last time the Bills drafted a defensive end out of Iowa, that they just messed with him a lot.
Yeah, maybe that's helmet scouting, but it's not it for me.
All right, how about this? On the count of 3, we say what we think Brandon Beane will do. Okay?
All right.
1, 2, 3. Zay Flowers.
All right. We have a stalemate. I'm good with Zay Flowers here. I'm not positive it's what Beane would do, but I think the value sitting there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the last first roundish grades on a wide receiver.
And I think that's kind of got a multi-layer value to it of if he develops into what you want him to be really quickly, maybe you don't feel as pressed to give Gabe Davis his next contract with some of that other talent you've brought in here. So,
right. Okay, let's see what happened. We're going to reject all these trades. All right. Jack Campbell and Drew Sanders. Drew Sanders got taken right before us, and Jack Campbell got taken 4 picks before us. So that's interesting. Let's see what else happened. Yeah, a lot of tight ends went and a lot of tackles went, which doesn't surprise me here. All right, what are you seeing on this board?
So we went with the wide receiver in the first round, and I
my
think
God.
I think this is a fun way for it to shake out because it kind
Is
of
this basically gonna be your draft? Is that what
pretty
is that
pretty much my draft is goaded. No.
you
Um,
know, all right, let's morph our two drafts together and instead of Benton, we'll pick Ika. So, you know.
Um, I think this kind of shows where you're at, like with receiver though, on like who you're really excited for in the first round, and those numbers dwindling by the second round.
Oh
And
yeah.
now we've had some players go on the defensive line, and there's still 3-4 guys up here that I'd be really excited to get in the second round.
Hmm.
So I'd be fine with Ika here, Gervin Dexter, Keanu Benton. I'm good with all of those. I know tight end was something you were interested in looking at. I like Luke Musgrave there.
Hmm.
Uh,
What
Tucker
about
Craft,
Tucker Craft?
think you could wait on him a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm just all right. We're doing the
Uh,
countdown.
oh boy,
All right. 1, 2, 3. Benton.
Gervin Dexter.
Oh, switched it up on me.
I
Why
want
Dexter over Benton?
Well, because I wanted it to be Benton, but I I didn't want to just repeat my last draft.
Oh, come on. That you're trying to be Brandon Beane. You're not trying to like
Yeah,
what do you think Brandon Beane would do?
I think it would be Benton.
Then there we go.
There it
Easy
is.
enough. So,
So,
interesting.
so it happened on two different draft platforms now, so it's pretty much, word is law, right?
Yeah, so this is gonna be our draft. Zay Flowers and Benton. So I'm not upset about that by any means. I think that's pretty. I would be satisfied if that happened. I think that, Zay Flowers comes in and becomes already like an impact player and pushes the other wide receivers to get better. Stephon Diggs is not getting any younger. And then you push I guess an immediate need in defensive line a little further down the list. I wouldn't be shocked if the Bills invested another pick on the defensive line later in this draft because, like I've said 3 or 4 times, they don't have a pick. I mean, they don't have anyone on contract after next year. That's a huge problem. And I mean, what are we going to do? Wait and just toss like $2 million deals like we did this season? Like, no, that would be bad. That'd be real bad. So
Big
I'm
bad
personally,
bean.
yeah, big bad bean, not big baller bean. Don't be the wrong BBB, you know?
Ah.
Yeah. So I'm relatively happy with how this draft and exercise went out. And it's kind of crazy that the NFL draft is already here. I don't, it really just feels like yesterday that we're talking about Kyer Elam, right?
It takes
But
forever, and then it flies by so fast at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah. Well, Justin, anything else you want to add to this conversation before we let the people go?
Just make sure you're checking out thewanderingbuff.com. Jake, our producer, has put a ton of work into the website, writing some columns up there, and just kind of elaborating on some of our thoughts that we talk about on the show. There's merchandise up there. Like I said, a lot of work has gone into it, so we greatly appreciate it if you check it out, leave some comments, all that kind of good stuff.
Right, right. Awesome. Well, as always, you can find me and Justin in this podcast by searching up the Wandering Buffalo podcast on most social media podcasting platforms and of course on YouTube and on our website. So just to reiterate and echo that again, check out the website, all that good stuff. He's Jay Gods 22. I'm Two Changs. This is the Wandering Buffalo podcast, a show here on the Buffalo Fan Base Network. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. And of course, go Bills.
Go Bills.